It's baffled scholars for 2 millennia. It is a puzzle made of multi-dimensional elements, an enigma with roots that reach back to the dawning of time, perhaps before. Daniel explained part of it. Ezekiel and Isaiah had glimpses into it. John saw it all for the time of the end. That time is now. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert on a journey that spans the course of history, from Eden to Mount Hermon, from Hermon to Babel, from Babel to Rome, from Rome to the cross, and from there to us. Biblical prophecy is coming true before your eyes, and to understand it, you must discern the times both then and now. It's time to unravel the threads of this all-encompassing prophetic paradox. It's time to unravel Revelation.
The Two Witnesses. Welcome to Unraveling Revelation from Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and we are finally getting back to the Book of Revelation, but not for long. We're going to sort of dive in for a verse or two and then jump right back out to explain what the two witnesses is all about. And that's going to require heading back to the Old Testament, our old friend.
Yes, because you can't understand Revelation unless you understand the foundation on which is built, which is the Old Testament. So
you cannot at all. By the way, before we get into, last week I thanked Deb Castelli for making my amazing stuff. This week I want to thank a couple of people who've been kind enough to send us gifts. One is Janine, who sent me a collection of goat milk products, goat milk soaps, and some bath bombs. And I have to tell you, Janine, I have loved these. So I just want to say that I love it. She says, experience goat milk soap and skincare handcrafted in Forney, Texas. Janine, I'm going to say the Telam, T-E-L-A-M?
That's how it looks
Elam.
to me.
Sorry, it's Elam.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. So experiencegoatmilkskincare.com is her website. If you are interested in goat milk products, they are really, really good. They're handmade, and we really, really appreciate that. Derek's tried them out too.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we want to thank our friend Brent, who sent yet more amazing chicken products. I collect chickens and roosters, as you well know. And no, we don't have chickens here at the Ridge. We'd love to, but we travel too much. So Brent is kind enough to send me ones that don't have to be fed. So thank you, Brent Biddle, for these really adorable breasts. They're nice and heavy, too.
Yes,
Chicken
substantial.
and rooster. So they're hanging out in my kitchen window.
Well, we talked last week about a character from the Old Testament named Balaam, who was a prophet and a seer who was hired by the king of Moab to curse Israel, and found that he just couldn't do it because Yahweh, God, would not allow him to do it. We actually stumbled onto some additional research about that the Baal of Peor and the Balaam Inscription, which dates to about the 8th century BC, so it's roughly 600 years after the events that took place on the Plains of Moab. And I found a paper, and unfortunately I didn't, let me see if I can scroll back really quickly and give credit where it's due. A paper that was written by a gentleman named Nate Labadorf, who's basically submitted it for his degree of Master of Divinity at Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina. And his paper deals with the events of Peor. And he connects it to the cult of the dead, which is something that we thought, based on our research for the books Veneration, Giants, Gods, and Dragons, was fairly obvious. But this is something, the cult of the dead in the ancient world is something that's only been acknowledged by scholars now, probably the last 40 years. So this is still fairly new to a lot of academics. It's certainly not being taught in our churches. But he points out that this text that we discussed last week, the Balaam Inscription, is a doomsday oracle from the mouth of Balaam. Now, bear in mind, again, this is about 600 years after he encountered Moses and the Israelites on the Plains of Moab. He proclaims that the gods have ordered another god, whose name is missing, to shut up the sky and bring darkness and confusion on the earth. The second section of this Balaam inscription that's been preserved, which is miraculous in and of itself because it's paint on plaster. Anyone who's ever had to
that's so
repaint a
fragile.
home and knows
Yeah.
how often you have to repaint to keep the house looking nice. Yeah. The fact that this still exists after 2,800 years is really remarkable. The second section seems to depict the Canaanite creator god El constructing a necropolis in the netherworld, Sheol, which is full of rot and death. Then we get to the really interesting part. The text mentions a goddess by the name of Shagar and Ishtar. Now, these compound names are common in Canaanite mythology. So Ishtar, of course, is Inanna, the ancient Sumerian goddess of carnality and bloodshed. It appears that based on this inscription that Balaam was devoted to the goddess, which makes sense because her status and what we will politely call fertility rights, even though they often had nothing to do with fertility, just the carnality, is well known. And that's what the daughters of Moab...
And it was very gender fluid.
Yes, and very gender fluid. And that's what the king of Moab was using. He used the women of Moab to entice the men of Israel into the worship of this god Baal of Peor. So it appears that Balaam was personally devoted to this goddess. Then we see the mention, as we discussed last week, to a group of entities called the Shaddaiin, and we connected this to El Shaddai, or at least the term Shaddai, which probably means mountain or gods of the mountain. But Mr. Labadorf says the Shaddaiin are mentioned actually in the Bible. It's just that we missed it because it's a different language. It's Aramaic instead of Hebrew. The inscription, the Balaam inscription, is in Aramaic.
Yeah.
So Shaddaiin is vocalized in Deuteronomy 32, verse 17 as Shedim, translated into English as demons. Let me bring up that verse very quickly. Deuteronomy 32 is a very important chapter of the Bible because it's Moses recounting the history of God and his interaction with the Israelites. And this is, of course, the chapter where we learn that when God divided the nations, he numbered them according to the number of the sons of God, placed them under the administration of these lesser Elohim. But in verse 17, we read...
The angels.
Yes, the angels, in other words, yes. They stirred him, God, to jealousy with strange gods, that term being Elohim, and with abominations they provoked him to anger. They sacrificed to Shedim that were no gods, to gods they had never known, to new gods that had come recently, whom your fathers had never dreaded. This, according to Labadorf, is a reference to these entities that are on this Balaam inscription found in this site just east of the Jordan River in modern-day Jordan, about 5 miles north of where Moses and the Israelites encountered Balaam the prophet, or seer.
Yeah. Now, isn't that interesting? Because Inanna, she called herself the queen of heaven. She called herself the queen of earth. She wanted to be queen under the earth, of the underworld, which would have made her in charge of the underworld. So you could say, in a way, that she was the goddess of the opening to the underworld.
Exactly. And Peor, as we noted in our book, Veneration, derives from a Hebrew term that means opening, which in this context means opening to the netherworld.
Yes.
Now, the other interesting thing about this paper, which is, I think, is really exciting, is that Mr. Labadorf cites the archaeologist Stephen Collins and Hussein Al-Jara. Stephen Collins is an archaeologist at Trinity Southwest University in Albuquerque. He's been leading the dig at Tal El Hammam, the site of ancient Sodom that overlooks the plains of Moab where Moses and the Israelites were camped. So imagine this, 300 years before, 400 years before Moses and the Israelites get there, that city is destroyed. They arrive. One of the stations on the Exodus is called Ayiha Avarim, which means ruins of the travelers, the term used for the demons, the spirits of the Nephilim that cross over or travel to the realm of the living from the land of the dead. And there they are, enticed into worshiping the Lord of the entrance to the netherworld, the Baal Peor.
Oh my gosh.
And here we've got this inscription found just a few miles away that references this god El and this underworld necropolis where rot and death, and the goddess Inanna essentially being told that the Shaddai gods, or the Shedim, or the demons of Deuteronomy 32:17, have said to the goddess Sew up, close up the heavens with dense cloud, that darkness exists there, not brilliance, obscurity and not clarity, so that you instill dread in dense darkness and never utter a sound again. In other words, what they're saying is, we want Inanna, Ishtar, the Queen of Heaven, to come to earth and basically destroy everything.
Which is what she threatened to do if she didn't get to have the mez. The
tablet, essentially the tablets of destiny, more or less. Right.
Exactly. If she didn't get to have those from Uncle Inky, then she was going to open up hell and bring back all of the dead. Right.
This is like a counter end times prophecy to what God has decreed, what Balaam decreed over the Israelites, saying that a star will rise from Jacob, crush the foreheads of Moab, and the sons of Sheth, the Sutians, the Tadanu, the sons of the Titans, the Nephilim, destroy them. This inscription argues the reverse, Ishtar Inanna, who you argued in your presentation for the Defender Conference last year, is the whore of Babylon.
She's the queen of our civilization right now.
Right.
She runs the world.
Yeah.
But the day will come when the kings that are waiting to rule, they will take her out because she's just there to set things up for them.
Yeah. So what you're getting here with all of this is just a very, very condensed version of what's going to be in our forthcoming book, The Gates of Hell.
Yeah.
Because we're going to argue that whole rift, the whole zone there along the Jordan River is essentially a portal to the netherworld. And we've seen this battle going on. And that leads us back to our discussion of the book of Revelation today and the two witnesses.
It does indeed. Well, it's Revelation chapter 11, and I'll start reading. Then I was given a measuring rod like a staff, and I was told, rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and those who worship there, but do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out, for it's given over to the nations, and they'll trample the holy city for 42 months. And I will grant authority to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Now, why two witnesses, and why are they God's two witnesses? Well, if we go back to, Go back now.
And we'll point out very quickly, 1,260 days, and a 30-day calendar is, a 30-day month, rather, is 3.5 years, exactly. So we're talking about half of the 7-year period that refers back to the book of Daniel and the prophecy of the 70 weeks that have been appointed for his people, Daniel's people, presumably meaning the Jewish people. We're waiting for week number 70 to begin. And this, we presume, then, refers to the first half of the 70 weeks.
Okay, Deuteronomy 17, and it's verse 8. So, if any case arises requiring decision between one kind of homicide and another, is that where I want to be?
I think so.
That doesn't sound right. No, it's verse 6. On the evidence of two witnesses, or of three witnesses, the one who is to die shall be put to death. A person shall not be put to death on the evidence of one witness. The hand of the witnesses shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. This is all about purging evil. This is all about purging the fallen realm from the world of mankind, from earth that was given to Adam and has been redeemed by Christ Almighty. This is all about those humans who sadly decide that they are going to stay with the fallen realm as their saviors. They're going to believe in the fallen realm with their hope. And these witnesses are God's witnesses to come down and, one, testify to mankind, and two, when they go up to the heavenly court, they will testify as to what has happened to them.
So these are the two then who will bring the accusation against the unrepentant world to the throne room of God.
Exactly. They will tell the truth to the unrepentant world. They will speak also to the fallen realm. Their ministry is primarily to the Jewish people. Primarily. This is a very Jewish concept.
Yeah.
The Jews know 2 witnesses are required. And 1,260 days is, as you say, 3.5 years. And that is the sort of ticking countdown clock from the first day of the final 7-year period of Daniel's prophecy of 70 weeks to the midpoint.
Mm-hmm.
After those 3.5 years pass, we will find out that the door closes to salvation.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here. We're not going to get all the way through the 2 witnesses today, but we do want to explain why we started with a reference back to Numbers chapter 24 before starting this. Who are the 2 witnesses? We'll explain that when Unraveling Revelation continues after this.
Call now and get the companion to the Book of Enoch special collection, featuring the original Book of Enoch in beautifully bound hardback edition, and both of Dr. Michael Heiser's groundbreaking companion guides to the Book of Enoch, along with the shocking expose, Fallen Angels and Ancient Aliens on DVD. This is an exclusive offer for our Skywatch television audience. Yours for a donation of $35 plus shipping and handling. Volumes 1 and 2 of the companion guides to Enoch unveil what most of the modern church has never heard regarding how the sin of the watchers in Enoch 6 through 16 helped frame the mission of Jesus, how the descriptions of the Antichrist, the Messiah, the end times day of the Lord, and the final judgment connect to Genesis 6 and the Nephilim. This and so much more. Plus, you will also receive on DVD the Book of Enoch, Fallen Angels and Ancient Aliens, an exclusive production with Dr. Michael Heiser regarding the blatant lies of ancient astronaut theory and the horrifying nature of fallen angels and alien abduction. This DVD is a must-have. But that's not all. You'll also receive the beautifully printed hardback edition of the original historical Book of Enoch from Defender Publishing, perfect for assisting serious researchers and students in the study of the Bible and the early age. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of $90. Yours now for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling while supplies last. Whether you've read the Book of Enoch or want to journey through it for the first time, without a doubt, you'll find the companion to the Book of Enoch special collection absolutely essential. Order now at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985.
Welcome back to Unraveling Revelation from Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, once again enjoying my coffee, of course. We want to invite you to join us in Israel. It is an incredible journey. You will see archaeological sites. You'll see the Mount of Olives. You will get to explore the temple, the Wailing Wall. You'll get to go under it. Mm-hmm. You will have an opportunity to touch the wall of the temple.
Yep.
That is underground. That most of us don't get to, because above ground you don't get close. But underground you'll see that there are all these little notes, prayers that are left down there as well. There are so many things that we do that other tours do not do. We're going to go to Gilgal Rephaim, and we're going to explore the land that was called Bashan, the place of the serpent.
And if you take the optional 3-day extension to Jordan, you will see exactly the area that we're talking about here. As from Mount Nebo, you can see the Plains of Moab where Moses and the Israelites camped. Why they called it Abel Shittim back in the day, we'll explain that. We'll show you the little hill that kind of juts out in the green, fertile area of the Jordan Valley there. That was the site of ancient Sodom, and explain why it was significant then and why it will be prophetically significant at Armageddon. It is the place of the final battle. And we'll go into all of that. And of course, Petra, that's a bucket list.
Exactly. Well, we're going in October of 2021. If something does happen, and it just looks like it's impossible to go over there without a vaccine, we're not interested in going if that's the case. We have an alternative date in April of next year, so don't worry. If you're interested in going, we're going to go. Eventually, the Lord will allow it one way or another.
Amen.
In this world or the next.
So for more information, to get a breakdown of the costs and a sample itinerary, log on to skywatchinisrael.com, skywatchinisrael.com.
That is right. Well, 2 witnesses.
Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation on who these characters are for a long, long time, probably for almost 2,000 years.
Oh, gosh,
We
yes.
know that in the 2nd century, less than 100 years after John wrote this book, scholars like Irenaeus of Lyon were speculating on who is the Antichrist? What does 666 mean, and so forth? And we know from his writings that there were others who were likewise trying to figure out what John had meant.
Oh, exactly.
We have heard the theory that I think everyone pretty much agrees that Moses is one of the two.
I think that's a really, really safe bet, if you want to put it that way, for many reasons. But there are some who think it's Enoch and Elijah.
Right. And they are described as prophets later in Revelation 11. They are called prophets, and so we're looking for two prophets. Enoch did prophesy, and the reason for choosing Enoch and Elijah is that both of those men, they're the only two that we know of in the Old Testament, in the whole Bible, who were caught up to heaven without dying.
Yes, exactly. And there is a scripture that says, for it's appointed unto mankind once to die, and then the judgment.
Right.
So you don't get to come back and die again, except Lazarus did.
That is true. Now, special dispensation, of course, Jesus called him forth to make a point and to do so to the spirit realm at a very significant place, by the way, on the Mount of Olives.
Oh, yeah.
But the reason we believe that Moses and Elijah are the two, and you're right, it's Elijah is the one that everybody pretty well agrees is one of the two. Moses being the other, that sometimes there's that discussion. Is it Moses? Is it Enoch? The reason we suggest that it's Moses is because of this area here that we are talking about, the Plains of Moab, which Ezekiel prophesies as the location that he calls the Valley of the Travelers. And again, travelers being a term from the ancient world that refers to the spirits of the Nephilim, the giants from the pre-flood era, destroyed in the flood, who became demons. We've discussed that in previous programs. Both Moses and Elijah not only were part of the transfiguration on Mount Hermon, both of them ended their time on this earth in that very location in the southern end of the Jordan River Valley. And Mount Hermon is where the Jordan begins, the Jordan ends at the Dead Sea, and both Moses and Elijah essentially wound up in the afterlife or in heaven.
Yes.
Right there.
We don't know where Moses is buried.
Right.
We do know that Satan claimed that he had a right to Moses, which is why he contended with Michael over it.
Yes.
Michael told him, we'll take that up with, my king, Jesus Christ, because I'm not going to argue with you about it. But we believe that Moses, being on the other side of the Jordan, still in the Valley of the Travelers, might be that Satan thought, I've got control over him because he's my backyard.
Yeah.
You buried him in my territory.
This is a reference to the Epistle of Jude, the short little book there, verse 9 of Jude's epistle. But when the archangel Michael, contending with the devil, was disputing about the body of Moses, he did not presume to pronounce a blasphemous judgment, but said, the Lord rebuke you. And Jude's point was that there were some who were blaspheming the glorious ones, I believe is the term that is, blaspheming the glorious ones. We see Peter make reference to that as well. The point is that when you try to say, I rebuke you to someone in the spirit realm, you're taking on too much authority for yourself. The Lord is the one who rebukes.
Exactly.
So, but the point here is that Moses, we know from Deuteronomy, was buried in the Plains of Moab somewhere. Nobody knew where. But again, that's that area that was called the Valley of the Travelers. There were locations in that valley on the Exodus route called Ovoth, which means spirits of the dead. Ayi Ha'avarim, which we mentioned before. It's just below the mountain of the travelers, Mount Nebo, mountain of the Avarim. And so it's very possible that Satan thought, hey, look, I'm Lord of the dead, and so I've got control of these. So Moses is buried on my territory, my holy ground, so I should get to dispense with his body.
Here's the wonderful thing about this. Remember also that Moses, and I'm going to look over here, that Moses and Elijah were the two transfigured on the Mount Hermon with Jesus. I'd say that's a pretty good indication that they are his lampstands. We're going to get to the lampstands next week, but that they are his two witnesses. And the fact that Jesus would choose Moses because Moses is buried in Satan's land where the travelers supposedly travel over and are revivified by Baal's, by El's name, the name of El, which is a counterfeit of Jesus. Instead, because they never will be, they will not rise, they will be dead.
Yes.
Moses, who is buried there, he gets resurrected.
Right,
It's such
right.
a poke in the eye.
It truly is. So it's not a coincidence that Moses and Elijah, I think, were both taken into the afterlife, one by natural causes, and Elijah being caught up by the chariots of God.
And we know it's on that side beat, and we'll read that scripture next week unless you can find it, because he told Elisha that follow me over here. And they crossed over, and he said, if you see me leave, then my mantle will go to you. My power will transfer to you. And sure enough, they crossed the Jordan over to the area east of the Jordan into the Valley of the Travelers, this area, at the foot of Mount Nebo. And that's where the chariot of fire appeared and took him away.
We'll have to get that next week, because I did a search and I searched the wrong way, and now it's brought up all of these various things, but not the verses that I wanted to find.
That's okay, because I also want to take you to Malachi 4, which is very interesting. For behold, the day comes that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. Now, this is about the day of the Lord. The last part of this, remember you the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel with the statutes and judgments. Behold, goes from remember Moses to behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet. Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. It begins with the final day when everything's going to burn up like stubble, and the Lord is judging the earth. Then it says, don't forget Moses, and oh, by the way, I'm sending Elijah.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think it does too.
It fits together. Well, nothing that happens in the Bible is by coincidence. And we see this pairing of Moses and Elijah in a number of different and unique ways. It had never occurred to us until we were researching the book Veneration to look at where Elijah had been caught up to heaven, and suddenly we realized, wait a minute, that's that same area there where Moses and the Israelites have been drawn into this cult of venerating the dead, serving the Lord of the opening of the underworld, or if you will, the Lord of the gates of hell. But then they were, and in my forthcoming book, Saturn's Reign, I'm going to explain why I think, and I think you agree, is that entity, that was just a title for the entity the Canaanites called El, their creator God.
It's in 2 Kings chapter 2. We'll get to that next week.
Yeah. So anyway, Moses and Elijah then brought up to Mount Hermon, which is where El held court with his consort Asherah and his 70 sons, the gods of the earth. And Jesus essentially there, as he had done at the base of the mountain with Peter's declaration, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, declaring his divinity and saying, okay, now I've announced myself. I am here. What are you going to do about it? And obviously the answer is, they'll do everything they can, but it won't be enough.
No, not enough. So next week we're going to continue with the two witnesses, and boy, I can't wait. This is so exciting.
It is. Thank you for watching. This is Unraveling Revelation from Skywatch TV.
Unraveling Revelation is part of Skywatch TV, a viewer-supported ministry. To learn more about Skywatch TV and the work of our sister ministry, Whispering Ponies Ranch, please visit our website, skywatchtv.com. And please join us for our weekly study of the Bible, verse by verse in chronological order, online at gilberthouse.org.